Hello guys, I'm Troy, and today I'm taking you through one of the strangest cultures on Earth. Okay, real talk. I'm that person who starts counting down the days the moment house guests arrive. By day 3, I'm secretly hoping they develop a sudden allergy to my cat. So you can imagine my sheer panic when I landed in Indonesia and discovered I'd be visiting a culture where the most important guests are usually deceased, and they stay for years. Honestly, guys, this isn't some made-up ghost story. This is everyday reality for the Toraja people in the highlands of Sulawesi, Indonesia. I went there as a complete outsider, just a tourist with a camera and about a million questions. But what I discovered didn't just shock me. It completely rewired the way I think about life, death, and what it truly means to remember someone. So get ready, because we're diving into a world where the line between the living and the dead is so blurry, you'll start questioning everything you thought you knew. Arriving in Tanah Toraja in South Sulawesi felt like traveling to another world completely. I'm not kidding, guys. The roads are wild, the mountains are so steep they look photoshopped, and the air feels different up here. Thinner, cooler, and buzzing with something ancient. The first thing that completely blew my mind was the architecture. These tongkonan houses, just look at them. Their roofs curve up toward the sky like giant buffalo horns. My guide, Johannes Bangkapuncai, told me they're not just houses, they're living monuments to family, always facing north toward the world of the ancestors. But the real culture shock for me wasn't just the scenery, it was the attitude toward death. Back home in the US, we treat death like a terrible secret. We whisper about it, hide it away in funeral homes, and try to forget as quickly as possible. But here, death is public, it's communal, it's something everyone shares. The Toraja blend their ancient animist beliefs called Aluk-Todolo, which basically means the way of the ancestors, with Christianity, and somehow it all just makes perfect sense. Especially considering that Indonesia is a majority Muslim country. I saw more churches here than I've seen in my entire life, but I also witnessed rituals that are thousands of years old. The fundamental difference hit me hard. Here, death isn't an abrupt full stop. It's a long, slow comma, a transition that can last for years. And the first stop on this journey isn't a cemetery, it's the family living room. Walking into one of those living rooms for the first time will be an experience that will haunt me, in the best way, forever. We will visit my uncle, Johannes said to me casually. I expected an elderly man sitting in a chair, but what I did not expect was for his uncle to have passed away 8 months ago. So there I am, trying to be a respectful tourist, smiling, nodding, when I suddenly realized the person I'm supposed to be smiling at is, well, mummified. He was dressed in a clean plaid shirt, propped up in a special alcove, and just there. My brain did a full system reboot. This wasn't a corpse in a coffin. This was Grandpa hanging out in the corner of the room. The family was chatting, and a kid was doing homework on the floor. Totally normal for them. Meanwhile, I was trying not to breathe too loudly. But this is their reality. When a Torajan dies, the body is embalmed, sometimes with modern chemicals, sometimes with traditional herbs, to slow down decay. Then they're brought home and called tomakula, which means a sick person. The Torajan people see their dead as asleep or unwell in this in-between state. And just like you'd care for a sick person, the family cares for them. They're offered meals, water, and coffee. If they smoke, they get cigarettes. In fact, I watched a woman chatting with her late father about his daughter's school play. I mean, they update them on family gossip, the harvest, everything. It's an ongoing conversation that death doesn't get to interrupt. The moment that really got me was when Johannes, before leading me closer, leaned in and whispered something to his uncle. Later, he told me he was asking for permission to let a visitor approach him. The level of respect blew my mind. I mean, I've seen people talk to their Wi-Fi router with less politeness when it stops working. Now, I know what you're probably screaming at the screen, but what about the smell, the ick factor, right? Honestly, thanks to the embalming and the dry, cool mountain air, there was barely any odor in the room. The body slowly dries out, becoming a natural mummy. So it was far less creepy and far more, well, peaceful than I could have ever imagined. But what really struck me was the belief behind it. The Toraja believe that the soul doesn't immediately go to the afterlife, known as puya. Instead, it stays close, lingering with the family. By caring for the body, feeding it, talking to it, they're comforting and honoring the spirit. To neglect the body would be to abandon the soul. This practice also gives the living something we've largely lost: time. Time for a gradual, gentle farewell instead of a sudden, brutal severance. But when I left Johannes's house, I didn't feel creeped out by his uncle at all. I felt envious. I think we in the West are so terrible at grief. We get a few days off work and are expected to move on. Here, grief is a process woven into daily life. It's shared, it's honored, and it takes as long as it takes. But let me tell you, when they finally do say their goodbyes, they don't do it quietly. The main event, the funeral, is something you truly have to see to believe. And I'll be exploring that next. I'm currently at Rambu Solo funeral. And if you think that the time at home is a quiet, intimate whisper, then the Rambu Solo funeral is a full-blown rock concert of a goodbye. The scale is absolutely mind-boggling. I'm talking about a celebration for thousands of people that can last up to a week. The cost of this ceremony is astronomical. I learned that a modest funeral can set you back around $50,000, and a high-status one can easily soar past $250,000. My mind was literally doing backflips. I mean, where does all that money go? Well, my friends, it goes on 4 legs and says moo. The water buffalo is everything here. In Torajan belief, these animals are sacred vehicles that carry the soul to Puya, the afterlife. The more buffalo you sacrifice, the faster and more prestigious the journey. In fact, I lost count after 24 buffalo, and what seemed like 100 pigs were ritually slaughtered. Each one of these magnificent animals can cost thousands of dollars, with the spotted ones being especially prized. It's a bloody, intense, and raw spectacle that I won't soon forget. The meat is then distributed among the guests, feeding the entire community in a massive act of shared sustenance. But it's not just about the sacrifices. The deceased is treated as the guest of honor, placed high in a beautifully decorated pavilion to oversee the festivities. There's traditional dancing, rhythmic music, and endless feasting. The mood here isn't somber, it's celebratory, a vibrant, community-wide effort to honor a life well lived. And get this, the gift economy here is next level. Guests don't show up with casseroles, they bring pigs and buffalo. Every single gift is recorded in a ledger because it creates a social debt. When the gift giver's family holds a funeral, that debt must be repaid. It's a fascinating centuries-old social security system built on reciprocity and respect. But after days of celebration that left me exhausted from just watching, the final journey begins. The coffin is carried in a grand procession to these breathtaking limestone cliffs. But here's the twist. The Toraja don't believe in burials as we know them. Nope, no 6 feet under here. Instead, they carve tombs directly into the rocky mountainsides, or hang beautifully decorated wooden coffins right on the cliffs. Because apparently, even in death, location matters. It's all about that heavenly real estate. These tombs are no small feat either. They're expensive, intricate, and can take months to complete. And to top it off, quite literally, they place taukau, which are life-size wooden effigies of the deceased in the caves or on balconies overlooking the land. It's like an eternal neighborhood watch, with the ancestors keeping a close eye on things, probably judging your life choices from above. But time does its thing. The once gorgeous coffins eventually start to rot, and sometimes the bones of the deceased tumble down to the base of the cliff. I thought that was the end of the story, but I was wrong. So wrong.
Just when I thought I'd seen it all, Johannes told me about my nene, the corpse cleaning ceremony. My jaw literally dropped. You mean to tell me that after all those years at home, the multi-day funeral and the cliffside tomb, they bring them back out? The answer, my friends, is very casual and cheerful. Yes! Every few years, families gather at the tombs for what might be the world's most unforgettable family reunion. And I mean that literally. Nobody misses it, not even the ones who've been dead for decades. I was lucky enough to witness it, and honestly, it was one of the most profound experiences of my life. But it wasn't what I expected. This wasn't a somber, tear-filled ritual. It was a celebration. There was laughter, music, and that familiar hum of love that connects generations. They open the coffins, gently lift out their ancestors, grandparents, great-grandparents, and beyond, and begin to carefully clean them. They brush off the dust, tidy their hair, and even let them air out in the sun for a bit, like laundry day, but for your relatives. They give them a full-fashion makeover, and I'm not exaggerating. I saw a woman lovingly dressing her grandmother in a beautiful new outfit and topping it off with a pair of sunglasses. Honestly, Grandma looked ready to hit the runway. Another family propped up their ancestor for a family photo, proudly introducing him to a new great-grandchild he'd never met. The love in the air was so thick you could practically touch it. It was joyful, heartfelt, and completely free of fear or awkwardness. This ritual shouts one beautiful message loud and clear: you are not forgotten. There's even a local legend about a man named Pong Ramasak, who once found an abandoned corpse, cared for it, and was rewarded with incredible luck. The act of compassion is said to have inspired this entire tradition, proving that in Toraja, kindness truly transcends life and death. Seeing it in person, you realize it's not morbid at all. It's the purest expression of love and remembrance I've ever witnessed. But what if I told you that on the other side of the Indian Ocean, there's a culture that takes this joyful reunion to an even higher level? Let's explore that next. In Madagascar, the Malagasy people practice Famadihana, or the turning of the bones. Every 5 to 7 years, families exhume their ancestors, wrap the remains in fresh, fine silk shrouds, and then, in a jubilant procession, carry them back to the village. And then they dance with them. I'm talking full-on, song-filled, joyful dancing with their ancestors in their arms. It's a massive party, a family reunion where the guest of honor has been dead for years. Their belief is parallel to the Torajas, as the spirit remains with the body until it completely decomposes. By rewrapping and dancing with their ancestors, they warm the spirits and keep that sacred bond alive and strong. What's fascinating is that these two cultures, separated by oceans and thousands of miles apart, have arrived at the same profound truth: that death doesn't have to mean goodbye. It can be a continuation, a celebration, a connection that endures. But as the modern world races forward, holding on to these beautiful ancient traditions is becoming harder, and that tension between old and new is where the story gets even more interesting. While chatting over coffee with some younger Torajans, I started to hear the other side, the part that doesn't make it into glossy travel documentaries. The financial pressure is enormous. Going into serious debt for a funeral isn't uncommon among the Torajans, and some are beginning to quietly question whether the old ways can continue to survive in today's economy. After all, when your funeral costs more than your house, it's a fair question. Then there's the religious tension. Many local churches have found ways to weave Torajan traditions into Christian practice, but some more conservative leaders see the animist rituals as clashing with their faith. And then there's, well, people like me. Tourism. My presence there was part of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it brings in much-needed income and global appreciation for a unique culture. On the other hand, it risks turning deeply sacred moments into something performative, a show for cameras instead of a ceremony for souls. However, the Torajan walked this incredibly fine line with grace, welcoming wide-eyed outsiders like me while fiercely protecting the dignity of their traditions. It's humbling because in a world obsessed with moving fast and letting go, the Torajans have mastered the art of holding on. But here's what gave me hope. They're adapting, not abandoning. Funerals might be shorter now, with fewer buffalo sacrifices, but the essence of the tradition remains untouched. The love, the respect, the unbreakable family bond, all of that is still rock solid. I think it's evolution, not erasure. The natural way living cultures survive in a changing world. The Torajans aren't letting go of who they are. They're simply finding new ways to carry their ancestors with them into the future. And leaving Toraja was harder than I ever imagined. I came as a tourist, a curious outsider with a camera, but I left feeling like I'd been entrusted with a precious secret, a completely new way to see life, death, and everything in between. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the shock factor, the mummies, the buffalo sacrifices, the cliffside tombs, but that's just the surface. What's underneath is something profoundly beautiful, a philosophy that says love is stronger than death, that our bonds with family are eternal, that grief doesn't have to be something hidden or hurried, but a shared journey that unfolds in its own time. The Torajans don't live with the dead. They live with their families. It just so happens that for them, death doesn't revoke your family membership. So I'll leave you with this. How does your culture remember its loved ones? What would it feel like to grieve without a time limit? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this journey moved you even half as much as it moved me, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications. I've got so many more incredible corners of our world to explore with you. Thanks for watching, and wherever you are, whoever you remember, never underestimate the power of love to transcend even the final frontier. See you in the next video.